mic on. All right, good evening and welcome. I'd like to call the regular board meeting of the Truckee Donner PUD to order. It is 6:04 p.m. Shauna, could we have roll call, please?
Thank you. Director Aguirre?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
President Bender?
Here.
The record will reflect
That
that Board Member
Laliotis.
Finn and Vice President Laliotis, that Director, Vice President Laliotis is here.
You're here.
Right, is.
Yeah.
No, Finn. I didn't even get that out correctly.
Yes,
And Director Finn is absent.
Absent, thank you.
Great. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance.
Fred.
You want to lead us in the pledge, Joe?
Sure, I will.
Okay, thanks.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Brian Wright, any changes to the agenda tonight?
There are no changes this evening.
Great. Okay. Public comment. Is there any public comment from the public on any matter not on the agenda tonight? Great. No public comment. Director update. Kim, any updates?
Why, yes, there is. Can you guys hear me okay? Is this better? Is that better? Hello? Red light on? Is the red light on? And,
Too full now? That one probably just worked.
hello?
Oh, there we go.
Is that it? I'm on, okay. So it's the line and the red.
Yes.
Means on. Well, you guys have had quite the snowstorms this week, or we have all had quite the snowstorms this week. And of course, I always like to thank staff for being out there and keeping our power on, our water going, and customers happy, during such events like this. I actually was gone during those few days. I was at the Special District Leadership Academy Conference for my job with North Tahoe PUD. But what is really nice is that a lot of the information crosses over between special districts. And so a lot of what I learned definitely carries over. And things that we did learn were including building a foundation for good governance, defining board and staff roles and relationships, fulfilling your district's mission, charting the course, as well as get the word out, best practices for communication and outreach. Sadly, I had to leave last night and I missed the last session, which was this morning, which is Show Me the Money. What do board members need to know about district finances? But this was a good opportunity for me to reconfirm what I do know about special districts from working for special districts, and also just to encourage our board members as well as staff, if possible, to use the Special District Leadership Academy and the California Special Districts as a resource if you are needing assistance with consultants or with direction or just, moral support, or just to reach out and network. It's a great group to talk with and be a part of. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Tony?
No, just, as Kim mentioned, I'm sorry. There we go. Just as Kim mentioned, the last thing people need to worry about is their electric and water when they're getting inundated by 10 feet of snow. So I really thank all the crews and their hard work out there to make sure that that's the last thing they had to worry about. And I know with the snow density we didn't have too many outages, so Mother Nature was kind to us in that respect. So anyway, but thanks for everyone for all your hard work, and see what the next round brings.
Thanks, Tony. Joe, any updates? Any updates?
Any updates? No, just kind of wonder what the staff's doing just to keep that good power going I think that's great. I don't know, I think it's a new telemetry, does that have something to do with, Ryan?
Yeah, the outage management system definitely has an impact on the notification process, but in terms of the resiliency and reliability of our system is really credited for the reduced outages out there in the storm situation.
You know, yesterday the lights blinked one time. Yesterday afternoon, I went, oh, what's gonna happen in here? And nothing happened, so that was great. Thanks for the good work. That's it for me.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, kudos to everyone, really big storms and amazing results of the district performing and providing the services, so pretty super stoked on that. Thank you. That takes us to GM update.
Thank you, President Bender. We have probably a fairly quick agenda this evening with a lot of consent items, a couple of presentations. Fortunately or unfortunately, the longest part of the meeting might be my updates, so I'll try to get through those as quickly as we can. It's been a while. It's been about a month since we had our regular session. We had the workshop a few weeks ago, but I want to give the board some updates on some of the happenings and developments of the district. As you all mentioned, the recent storms have been pretty dramatic, and staff has received a lot of outreach and feedback on positive note of the power staying, energized throughout the storms. And I really want to give credit to our engineering group, the operations group, the crews out in the field, the water departments doing the snow plow and snow removal, the line crew out there making sure things are as they should be, the engineering groups preparing our robust system for these types of events, and our administrative services staff, customer service, accounting. We stayed open with the lights on for the entire duration of this last storm, and we look forward to doing that in the future as well. Every year, hoping to improve with a more robust system, and as Director Aguirre pointed out, the outage management systems and notification process is continuing to improve. And so the feedback loop is critically important. We also saw that Nevada County issued an alert. Things were a little bit different on the western slope, and likely because of a higher moisture content, perhaps more winds. So we'd like to say good or lucky.
I don't think it was that. I think it was the
Good or lucky, we'll take both. And we'll continue working to improve that system. We did receive some specific expressions of gratitude from some local electeds, community members, and I received a couple of calls from actual PG&E employees who were here in town visiting, giving us kudos. So I appreciate that as well. I also wanted to give the board some updates on the electric rates. We've had some discussions about the energy cost across the western region over the last couple of months, in large part driven by the spike in natural gas prices, the cold storms that we've had. You've seen over the last several weeks, the storms have extended not just in Northern California, but all the way to Southern California. You heard about blizzard conditions in the southern mountains and deserts. And so you'll likely see, reductions in solar energy generation, increases possibly in wind generation, reduction in the last couple of months or last half of the year in large hydro. And so there's a lot of dynamic, changes in the energy market out there. We spoke last month, the last meeting, that there was a very significant increase in the dollar per megawatt hour for the districts in our purchase power for the month of December. And I want to give some kind of perspective or context to it. And so in December, we saw very significant rise we saw it peak at about $122 average over the month, $122 per megawatt hour, driving the monthly purchase cost over the $2 million mark. For January, we saw the price drop.
Ryan, can you repeat that, the dollar?
It was in December, the average over the month was $122 per megawatt.
Oh, wow.
In January, it dropped slightly to $118 per megawatt, but our energy sales went up. And so our total bill still is much higher than it has been in the past, the cost of energy. To give it some context, in January of last year, it was $68. So it went from $68 in January of '22 to $118 in January '23. And so you saw the month to month went down about 3%, but the year over year went up about 74. And so Mike Salmon, our CFO, will come to the board with an item probably in the next regularly scheduled meeting to talk about financially what we do with that in terms of board authorization to utilize the rate reserves. And we also have on the agenda this evening, under consent, the consideration of approval with HDR Consultants to work on our cost of service and rates for the coming years. And so there'll be an opportunity for the board to have some really good discussions with our consultants, staff, on how we want to mitigate some of these risks in the future and how we want to address some of the financial volatility of natural gas in the energy market, at least what we've seen over the last few months. With that, I'd also like to update that Red Mesa, our solar project, that's very close to coming online. The generation facility is 100% complete in terms of construction. They're going through the registration and permitting process with CAISO. It has a few delays with the CAISO registration process. That's expected to be done later this month. They'll do a testing phase to make sure that everything works as it's intended, and then probably about a month after that test phase, go into full operation and delivery of energy. So we're hoping for a March delivery date. It's probably going to be in April, but we're very close. Everything's waiting for the final paperwork to be filed, so to speak. Also, I'd like to give an update on a couple of the joint powers, local joint powers that we're members of. The Climate Transformation Alliance, Director Finn is representing the board on that CTA board. I've been attending some of those meetings as staff. Some exciting new updates for the CTA. There's an updated scope of work and MOU that's being proposed that'll be brought before the board here in the coming months. The CTA is applying for the California Adaptation Planning Grant. That is, hopefully, with that award, will offset the cost to each of the public agencies in funding that alliance and also fund future projects. And then there's some exciting new developments in a building decarbonization program that the CTA is exploring right now that Director Finn or myself can bring back to the board in a future date. Would like to encourage anybody who's interested, not as one of the governing partners, but as a local entity, a company, a business, an agency that wants to participate in the Climate Transformation Alliance. The next meeting is scheduled to be held on April 14th. Those meetings are usually held in person at the airport board facility. And so attendance is encouraged. There's a lot of group think and think tank opportunities there for decarbonization, greenhouse gas reduction projects for the future of the North Lake Tahoe and Truckee region. The district's also one of the founding members of the Truckee Tahoe Workforce Housing Agency. Some new updates there. First, I'd like to give an update on the master leasing program that the board approved our participation in several months back. We had a new recruit that took advantage of that in terms of housing transition, moving into the area, very successful, something we hope to carry on forward in future years. The Workforce Housing Association is, we will be reviewing a proposed new budget for fiscal year 23-24. That'll happen tomorrow morning. I will come back to the board with some items for consideration in approving the new budget in terms of the cost to the district. So I'll have some more updates once that board meeting is completed tomorrow. There's also, on February 9th, the Workforce Housing Association announced, and it's an expansion of its scope of work. And what that meant was that originally the association was founded by 3 public agencies, the Truckee Donner PUD, the airport district, the school district. I believe that's the 3 founding ones. And so we expanded, the hospital district. And so the association expanded to include the town of Truckee and the 2 counties, Nevada County and Placer County. And with that expansion, part of the strategic plan development and new budget is to include an additional nonprofit arm to include not just workforce housing for public agency employees, but workforce housing across our service territories, Truckee and the North Tahoe region. And so it's exciting new development. That's part of the budget development process and the new strategic plan. I'm hoping to bring Emily Vitus, the director of the Truckee Workforce Housing, to come do a presentation before the board while we consider approval of some new funding opportunities and new programs. So look forward to that in the next couple months. Couple of items that staff has been working diligently on in terms of the regulatory and legislative environment. Staff and Director Finn attended the Capitol Day back on February 6th. That was hosted by CMUA and NCPA, our JPA partners. A lot of great discussions and opportunities to connect with legislative staff members from the state capitol, work on a couple of workshops with our other partner agencies, with those legislative staff members on some of the challenges we have here in California in terms of advanced clean fleet rule, local energy prices, local regulatory burdens that are on the legislative docket. And it was a great workshop opportunity to also work with some of our local legislative representatives, Assemblywoman Dolly and Senator Dolly. Following those meetings, we had an opportunity to meet with the chairperson of the California Air Resources Board. The topic there was advanced clean fleet. And so it was a unique opportunity for, I believe it was 5 general managers and representatives from CMUA and NCPA to, on Zoom, meet directly with the chair of the California Air Resources Board to, in a more direct one-on-one environment, explain the challenges and risks that the current proposed regulatory rule would present to agencies such as the Truckee Downer PUD and our neighboring utilities. And so it was a really good opportunity for us to articulate the risk in terms of public safety, setting goals for zero-emission vehicles in our heavy specialized fleet, setting those goals too quickly, the risk it puts our organizations like ourselves and our neighboring utilities in terms of reliability of service, emergency response, and mutual aid. Quick update on the broadband initiative. Staff is continuing to work with Uptown Consulting Services to develop a scope of work for the feasibility study, the next step the board requested in the last workshop. We're also have scheduled meetings with LAFCO representatives to make sure that we're being transparent and in alignment with the appropriate process, the kind of order of operations here. So we want to be not just transparent with our ratepayers and our partners, but also with LAFCO to make sure that we're in alignment with how the perceived process should take place. And I think I'll stop there.
We have plenty of places to go.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, we have a packed consent calendar. There's one item, Steve Gross, I think I need to recuse myself on item number 11.
Yes.
Okay, I haven't done this in a while, so do we just do everything but 11 and then do a separate vote for 11?
So because it's on the consent calendar, you can just state your conflict and the need to recuse yourself, and then there could be a motion to adopt the consent calendar. You can all vote on it, and the clerk would record your vote as an abstention on that particular item. There's no need for you to leave the room.
Got it, great. All right, I have a financial interest in the Grays Crossing, and so I'm going to recuse myself on that one. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, any directors have questions on the consent tonight? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Director Aguero.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis.
Yes.
President Bender.
Yes,
record-
recusing 11.
With the recusal of 11, and the record will reflect that Board Member Finn is absent.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to our first action item, number 15, award of the District Pipeline Replacement 2023, Contract B, Construction Contract.
Good evening, President Bender and board members. This is action item number 15, award of the District Pipeline Replacement 2023 Contract B Construction Contract. As the board is aware, the Water Department has an ongoing need to replace existing pipelines. These typically fall into two categories: pipes that are in poor condition and require repeated repairs, and pipes that are old, undersized, and have exceeded their useful life. The District Pipeline Replacement 2023 Contract B project entails about 4,900 feet of main on Ski Slope Way in the Tahoe Donner area. The contract was structured with a base bid and an additive alternate. The base bid is about 3,800 feet of main, and the additive alternate was about an additional 1,100 feet of main. And the locations are shown here on this map. We're on Ski Slope Way in between Davos Drive, which is down here, and Glacier Way, which is up at the top. The base bid is shown here, and the additive alternate, and we're sandwiched around an area that was previously replaced about 15 years ago, plus or minus. So the bid opening was held on February 16th. We received 4 bids. Rupert Incorporated was the low bidder on both the base bid and the base bid and additive alternate. And we do have our typical related contracts for construction inspection, environmental services, and geotechnical testing. In terms of financial impact, the pipeline replacement projects are a core component of the 10-year Water Department Capital Improvement Program. The fiscal year 2023 Water Department budget includes $14.8 million for capital projects. So there are sufficient funds to include the additive alternate in the contract. The base bid from Rupert was $2,092,071. And with a recommended 10% change order allowance, the total authorization would be $2.3 million. So the recommendation before you is to award the District Pipeline Replacement 2023 Contract B to Rupert Incorporated in an amount of $2,092,071, plus a 10% change order allowance of $207,929, for a total authorization not to exceed $2.3 million.
Great, thank you. Any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks. Any director questions or comments?
I do have a question. So you said that this was previously replaced about 15 years ago?
No, if you look at the map here, you'll see that little section in blue, kind of down around that hairpin curve.
Uh-huh.
And so the two sections we're dealing with are on either side of an area that was previously replaced.
Okay, I see. And so this is original pipe from when Dart Industries put it in?
Correct, yes. The pipe that we'll be dealing with in this contract is circa 1972, 73, and it's going to tie into this small little replacement section that we did a few
Great.
years ago.
And what's the useful life of something like this? 30 years, 40 years? Probably more years than when DART put it in, I'm sure.
Oh, are we if we're discussing the new facilities that we're putting in right now?
Yeah.
We're targeting a useful life of certainly at least 75 to 100 years.
Great. Thanks.
Cool. Tony?
No, just make a mention that the low bidder is a local contractor, so.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And also just reinforcing that water line now costs $2 million a mile, so. Remember when I used to say it was $1 million a mile?
Now it's 2.
Yeah, so.
The starting date on this project is about August.
I would expect that to get rolling a little bit earlier. I haven't sat down with Rupert and determined exactly when they're going to get started. They do have a couple of other local projects that we'll be working on. I believe they have a project with the town of Truckee. There is enough time within the schedule that if they don't get started until perhaps July, there should be plenty of time to get this done before the October deadline. But I don't expect them to get rolling May 1st.
Yeah, because my front yard's got about 8 feet.
I live just outside this construction area. There's more than 8 feet up there.
I bet there is.
Yeah, I've got 4 feet of snow on my deck that I need to go
I'm
clear.
estimating it at 4. I mean 8,
Yeah.
but I didn't go out and measure it.
Anything else?
No.
Joe, you good?
Yes, I'm good, thanks.
All right.
That's a
Yeah.
crystal ball question, so.
Yeah. Looking good. 2 million a mile. Is there a motion for it?
I'll move that we accept Rupert Incorporated bid.
I'll
Pipeline.
second.
Oh, I should have just read it.
No.
Director Aguirre?
You,
You want me to read it?
you can read it, or you can say staff's recommendation, because Neil read it for us.
Oh,
Either
okay,
one.
yeah,
Up to you,
staff
Joe.
Recommendation that we approve this bid for the Rupert Incorporated.
Great. And then we have a second.
I still second it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Change your mind?
Shauna, roll call, please.
Thank you, Director Aguirre.
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Bender?
Yes.
Director Finn is absent.
Thank you. Great. More pipe in the ground. Thank you. All right, we've got number 16, consideration to approve the Second Amendment to Memoranda of Understanding with the Town of Truckee for the use of the town's fueling facilities and funding of a new fuel tank. Nice. Better priced fuel. That's what we need.
Instead of the one over there at the Forest.
Oh, no, to extend it.
Oh,
Yeah, extend it with the,
Contract.
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Brian's going to tell us more.
All right. Thank you, President Bender, members of the board. This is action item number 16, as President Bender presented. A little bit of background and history in terms of some of the district's challenges. The district obviously maintains a really diverse inventory of fleet, and these are all highly specialized pieces of equipment, and that's really kind of the foundational argument we have in terms of the advanced clean fleet rule is how specialized our equipment is and how currently that equipment is very hard to find and place orders and develop and design to our needs in terms of commercial availability. And the reason for that is the work that it does. And I've kind of itemized a couple of things here. This heavy equipment is very specialized in terms of it often transports heavy equipment and materials, provides tools for excavation and snow removal. Some of the work is overhead bucket, line, and pole work that our line crews do. Obviously, it's critically important for emergency water and electric distribution repairs. We see that all the time. And I want to reemphasize winter snow removal. It's how we continue to maintain service during these winter storm cycles. I met with a lot of the field crew over the last couple of days, just coming in, retooling up, rechaining up, heading back up into the Tahoe Donner, the west end of Donner Lake, making sure that in the event something happens, we have access to these critical facilities. Quick imagery, I know you've all seen it before, but just kind of illustrates the specialty, the nature of our equipment there. So one of the key challenges for making sure all of these specialized vehicles are operational and available 24/7 is that they have to operate under a wide variety of conditions. Obviously, extreme winter weather we're experiencing now, widespread regional power outages in the event of PSOM. It could also be affected by PSPS if we're doing mutual aid, some of our partners up on the summit. And then wildfire conditions. We haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had one specifically here in the district recently, but we know that wildfires are a risk here in the Sierra Nevada, and making sure our equipment can operate at a moment's notice is important, not just in evacuation, but partnering with our fire protection districts and police departments who we will most likely be on the front lines with during fire events. And one of the new challenges that we've experienced over the last couple of years is kind of breakdowns in supply chains in terms of highway closures and inability to deliver fuel into our community during extreme events, whether it be a rock slide event on 80, major accidents, or winter storms like we're experiencing now. And so to ensure this fleet is operable at all times, it really requires that a source of fuel is local and reliable. So staff, back in July of 2020, began some discussions with two of our public partners here in town of Truckee and the Truckee Fire Protection District. It really started examining what opportunities there would be to partner in a local fuel storage facility, specifically for fleet that are essential for public services here in our community. In December of that year, the three partners developed the framework for a shared facility use MOU. You might recall this. It included a pilot program for each of the agencies to use the fueling facility, kind of test out transitioning from another local fuel source to the shared facility. And they really started examining what the funding agreements would be for future improvements and expansion. Back on December 16th of 2020, the board authorized the general manager to execute an MOU with the town of Truckee, establishing those terms for the town's fueling station. This included a short-term shared pilot program. It outlined initial investments in the depreciated value of existing infrastructure, essentially buying in to the infrastructure that was there, and then some of the parameters for investments in new facilities and expansion. Here's just kind of a reference at the town's public works yard, the existing facilities as they are now. We did participate, staff participated in a pilot program from December of 2020 to March of 21, and it really came out with favorable results. Staff really appreciated the consistency and reliability of a local fuel source. We established a kind of a card payment system that was easy for accounting, and we didn't have to worry about local business closures, staffing issues that we've experienced since COVID. And so it really provided logistically in terms of our staff's ability to go locally here and reliably for that critical. This is both diesel and gasoline. So after the pilot program in March of 22, the town held a bid opening for the Public Service Center Fueling Station project. This is the expansion of those facilities. In March, they only received one bid, and they had there's a couple different theories as to why there was one bid. There was obviously a change in the market and supply chains and some challenges that we've all talked about in terms of public construction bids and responsiveness to those. With only one bid, town made a finding to reject all bids and re-advertise at a later date. Really, town council gave staff town staff permission to, or authorization to re-advertise either in the fall of '22 or this early spring of '23. And so last month, the town held a bid opening for the second solicitation of bids for the Public Service Center Fueling Station project, and the lowest responsive bid coming from LA Perks Petroleum Specialists in the amount of just under $1.4 million. This is kind of hard to see in a PowerPoint, but that basically it is the kind of the doubling of the fuel capacity for the town's current fuel storage facility with additional pumps. And so there'll be two 20,000-gallon fuel storage tanks. That's 40,000 gallons of fuel storage plus, and that'll be separated, I think, like 60-40 for diesel and gasoline. There's a lot more demand for the diesel component just because of a lot of all three agencies' heavy equipment rely heavily on diesel. And I have to add that this is a renewable diesel source also. So collectively reducing the carbon footprint of all three agencies. And so the expansion with the additional tank also includes, for those of you who own diesels, the diesel exhaust fluid is something that's incorporated in all California diesel emission vehicles over the last, I think, 10 years. And it's typically the process is buying it in small jugs or small barrels and having to wheel it around and put it in your vehicles when it gets low. The town's incorporated this into the project with a dispensary of that fluid at the fueling station. So that'd be really advantageous as well. And as you saw from the earlier picture, it's a covered facility. It's one of the other challenges, in the middle of the storms, the rain, making sure the staff can do this without fighting, the blizzard conditions there. And so town staff has agendized for the town council to authorize a construction contract with LA Perks Petroleum Specialists in the amount of $1.365 million plus a 10% contingency for a total contract amount of just over $1.5 million. The town's council meeting was originally scheduled for Tuesday. It's due to the storm, it was rescheduled for tomorrow evening. So we'll know the results of that shortly. So they have the bid for the construction. The total design and construction cost for the project are estimated to be just over $1.6 million. So the second amendment to the MOU as presented for this item includes the breakdown of investment contributions from each of the public agencies. And it's really based on the projected use of the facility. And so as you can see here, the town of Truckee would be responsible for approximately 65%, the PUD 25%, and the Fire Protection District 10%. And it's based on historical use, the amount of fuel each agency uses on an annual basis, and so that's divvied up proportionally to that. And so based on that MOU distribution of costs, the town of Truckee would be responsible for just over $1 million investment in the project. The PUD would be just over $400,000, and the Fire Protection District would be just about $160,000. And this is just for the construction of the new facilities. And so if we add the original contribution of the depreciated value of the existing equipment that we utilized during the pilot program and the expansion of the facility, the district's total investment for this participation would be $461,799. This is an unbudgeted investment for fiscal year 22-23. However, the electric utility capital reserve balance is more than sufficient to cover the funding for this project. The project was not a component of the fiscal year 22-23 10-year capital plan, but it will be added when we do the budget revisions for 24-25 later this year. And so it'll be included in our capital expenditure and depreciation process. And so I kind of want to close before I go to recommendations, just to kind of reemphasize the value in having a local, reliable fuel source for our critical equipment. There's a lot involved with hosting, constructing, and maintaining a fuel facility, particularly in California, particularly in an environment like Truckee and the Sierra, where environmental protection is also paramount. And so some of the secondary containment, the testing, the licensing, bringing that together in a collective collaborative project really has a value to the community. And so I would strongly encourage the board's consideration for this project. The recommendation is a long one, so I'll read it for the board's consideration. Staff's recommendation this evening is to approve and authorize the general manager to execute the Second Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between the district and the town of Truckee, establishing terms for the use of the shared fueling station and funding for the new fuel tank project in substantially the form presented with such changes as are acceptable to the general manager and district council. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any public comment?
No, Mr. President.
All right. Joe, we'll start with you. Any thoughts?
This one just got too small for us, or what? The capacity on this, on one we have now, has it got too small, or?
It's not that it's too small. It's, when you're building critical infrastructure, you don't want to build for the average use. You want to build for the high needs. Also, the second tank and pumps create some redundancy. And so where one tank will, and it probably will be quite frequently or periodically that the tank has to be taken out for service and inspection. There's a second tank and a second set of pumps to make sure that all of our trucks can be fueled up. No, there's two there's one diesel, one gasoline. There'll be two of each, I believe, plus the DEF pump.
Oh, good, okay, thank you.
Great. Tony?
No, this is a good project. I felt that when staff first brought it to our attention. We have a similar agreement in Tahoe City with the North Tahoe Fire Protection District, and it works out very well for both of us. Just one question, is the maintenance of the facility also utilizing those percentage spreads, or is that going to be something that's adjusted ongoing based on fuel usage?
That's going to be addressed ongoing terms with fuel usage. And so the MOU's currently a 5-year agreement with renewals, and each agency will sit down at that time to assess what the maintenance, burden has been.
Right. No, and then, the town has championed the use of renewable diesel in this community, so, obviously we're riding their coattails there, but this is a great opportunity for us to reduce our footprint as well, so that's all I have.
Great. Kim?
I'm always excited to see the different districts and community and the town of Truckee to get together to do something for the betterment of the community. So, I'm impressed with it, so it's good.
Yeah, great project. So, all in. Is there a motion?
I'll move to pass staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Oh, we got Kim and Tony. Shauna, roll call, please.
Director Aguero?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Bender?
Yes,
Director Finn is noted as absent.
thank you.
And I don't know if I need to know, I no longer work for the town of Truckee, so I don't have to recuse myself. I wouldn't have anyway, probably.
You're correct, you do
Okay.
not have to.
I do not need to, okay, thanks.
For bringing that to our attention.
Excellent. All right, thank you. So that takes us to routine business. We've got the approval of the treasurer's report for March of 2023. Part A, fund balances for December 2022, as well as the disbursements for the month of January 31st, 2023. Is there any public comment?
No, Mr. President.
Any board questions or comments or a motion? Joe, this is where you pay the bills that have already been paid.
I move to pay the bill,
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
even if they're already paid.
Thanks, Joe. Roll call, please.
Director Aguero?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Bender?
Yes.
Director Finn is noted as absent.
Great, thank you. All right, we've got some minutes here, January 18th and February 1st, 2023. Any public comment on the minutes?
No, Mr. President.
Any questions from the board or comments or edits? Or a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Director Aguirre?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Liliotis?
Yes.
President Bender?
Yes.
Director Santos noted as absent. I can't say it tonight.
Hey, that's the end.
That's the end.
That's the end. There it is.
Adjourn.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.